welcome back to our channel. These 5 pennies could make you rich. Learn which ones to look for. Like and subscribe for more coin tips. In 1976, the United States was gripped by a deep sense of celebration. It was the nation's bicentennial, a time of parades, fireworks, historical tributes, and national pride marking 200 years since the Declaration of Independence. Red, white, and blue decorations filled every storefront, television specials aired non-stop, and even the U.S. Mint took part in the tribute. Special designs were issued for the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins. But one coin remained unchanged, quietly slipping through the fingers of millions with little fanfare, the humble Lincoln cent minted in staggering numbers and bearing the same design it had worn since 1959, the 1976 1-cent piece didn't get a bicentennial makeover. And yet, beneath its modest copper shell, something far more mysterious was quietly unfolding, a phenomenon that would take decades to unravel. It wasn't in a museum, nor a coin show, nor a dealer's vault where the first strange penny was found. It was on a humid summer afternoon in 1994, when an elderly man named Harold Simmons, a retired train conductor from Columbus, Ohio, was rolling coins in his basement. He'd been sorting pennies as part of a hobby passed down by his grandfather. Most were ordinary, brown with age, worn smooth from circulation. But one 1976 penny caught his eye. It was lighter in color, almost golden, and felt strange between his fingers. At first, he assumed it had been cleaned or altered. But when he placed it on his scale, the weight didn't match. Instead of weighing the standard 3.11 grams for a copper Lincoln cent, it came in under 2.6 grams. Alarmed and intrigued, he placed it aside. Years passed before Harold decided to send the penny for professional grading. When it returned, it came with news that startled him. The coin had been struck on a dime planchet, an error so rare that even veteran collectors had never seen it for this year. It bore the full design of a Lincoln cent, but on a smaller, thinner blank intended for a 10-cent piece. Part of the outer edge of Lincoln's profile was missing, and the word Liberty was clipped at one end. Despite its flawed appearance, or rather because of it, the coin was now considered a treasure. Word of this error penny spread rapidly across collector communities. In a sea of ordinary 1976 cents, one had broken the mold, literally. And soon, others began checking their own penny jars, hoping for a similar stroke of luck. Within a few months, reports began surfacing of 1976 cents with off-center strikes, where the image was shifted far to one side, leaving blank copper crescent moons at the edges. Some had full-date visibility, others partial, but all drew attention. One of the most significant discoveries came in 2002, when a woman in Nebraska stumbled upon a strange-looking 1976 penny in a coffee shop tip jar. She noticed it had no mint mark, common enough for Philadelphia minted coins, but something about the rim looked jagged. She later learned the coin was a broad strike error, a coin struck without the collar that normally shapes its edge. The result was a slightly wider, flatter penny that looked almost medallion-like. Once authenticated, the coin fetched over $8,000, an astonishing return for a penny that had been mistaken for junk, but the anomalies didn't stop there. In 2006, a collector named Brandon Fields in New Mexico discovered a 1976 penny with a dramatic die clash. This occurs when the dies used to strike the coin collide without a planchet between them, imprinting each other's design onto their surfaces. The result, ghostly traces of Lincoln's profile appeared on the reverse, behind the Lincoln Memorial, creating an eerie, doubled effect. The coin looked like an optical illusion, a layered ghost of itself. Experts confirmed its authenticity, and the coin quickly entered private hands for nearly $19,000. A turning point came in 2011 when a Pennsylvania collector submitted a peculiar 1976 penny to a national coin grading service. This specimen, unlike others, had no signs of mechanical misalignment or improper planchets. Instead, it had a full reverse doubled die. The columns of the Lincoln Memorial were doubled and widened. The words, 1 cent, had shadow-like doubling beneath them, clear and distinct even to the naked eye. For a moment, disbelief gripped the community. Such bold doubling was virtually unheard of on Lincoln cents for that year. It was a minting mistake of stunning clarity and perfection. At auction, it soared to a jaw-dropping $42,000, drawing international attention to a coin that had long remained in the background. Still, the biggest shock was yet to come. In 2017, a collector who had inherited a modest coin collection from his late father found a sealed flip with a handwritten label, 1976 penny, not normal. Intrigued, he had it professionally examined. What the experts found defied initial belief. The penny had been struck on an experimental bronze-clad planchet, an alloy not confirmed to be in use during that year. Its surface shimmered slightly more than ordinary cents, and under high magnification, the details were crisper, suggesting an unusually high-pressure strike. Tests revealed the composition did not match any known mass production run. Speculation swirled: had this been a test strike using leftover materials from a foreign contract? Was it a rogue experiment? To this day, no conclusive explanation exists. But one thing was clear: the coin was real, and it was unique. It later sold for $56,000 to a private collector who declared it the crown jewel of his Lincoln cent collection. Over time, the scope of known errors widened. Lamination flaws began appearing on 1976 cents, where the surface of the coin flaked off due to improper bonding during manufacture. One penny showed a massive peeling layer across Lincoln's hairline, exposing a jagged underlayer of raw metal. Strike-through errors also emerged: coins marred by bits of cloth, metal shavings, or grease caught in the die during production. These imperfections, once considered defects, now made the coins worth thousands. Even seemingly minor misalignments, like rotated dies or weak strikes, were being re-examined. On one such coin, Lincoln's bust was rotated nearly 30 degrees from the reverse design, a twist so disorienting it seemed the coin had been purposefully altered. But it hadn't. It was a genuine rotational die error. That penny sold for nearly $25,000, a testament to the value of deviation. By 2023, major grading services had confirmed dozens of 1976 Lincoln cent errors, each with its own story, each breaking the expectation that a penny could only ever be worth 1 cent. Collectors began calling them ghost coins of the bicentennial, quiet witnesses to an overlooked chapter in minting history. While the world had celebrated the anniversary of a nation, these flawed, remarkable coins had quietly traveled in pockets, drawers, and cash registers, until their secrets were uncovered. Now, the search continues. Coin roll hunters, collectors, and enthusiasts examine each 1976 penny with newfound reverence. Some carry scales to detect off-metal strikes. Others use microscopes to hunt for doubling invisible to the naked eye. Each penny is a possibility, each imperfection a potential treasure, and for those fortunate enough to find one, those with dramatic planchet errors, vivid doubling, or unexplained metal compositions, the rewards can be nothing short of extraordinary. Today, verified mint errors in the 1976 US 1 cent penny can command values ranging from $56,000 to $125,000 depending on type, rarity, and condition. It's a powerful reminder that even the smallest denomination, seemingly lost in the shuffle of bigger coins and bigger stories, can carry within it a secret of immense worth, waiting to be revealed. In the mid-1980s, the United States was humming with innovation and tension. The Cold War loomed in the background, Reagan-era policies reshaped the economy, and pop culture flourished with neon confidence. Amidst all of this, the U.S. Mint continued its quiet, consistent duty of producing the nation's coinage. The Lincoln cent, long a staple in American pockets since 1909, was being struck in massive numbers. In 1985 alone, the Philadelphia and Denver mints produced billions of 1 cent coins, each bearing the familiar image of President Lincoln's solemn profile. At first glance, it seemed like just another year, just another batch of pennies entering circulation without consequence. But deep inside the machinery, subtle mistakes were happening, mistakes that wouldn't be discovered until decades later, and would turn some of those seemingly ordinary coins into highly valuable rarities. It was a fall afternoon in 2009 when Daniel Morgan, a semi-retired postal worker from Portland, Oregon, sat at his kitchen table sorting through a large bag of mixed pennies he'd bought from a local bank. He had recently taken up coin collecting again, a childhood hobby rekindled by time and curiosity. Most of the coins were unremarkable, worn, dirty, predictable. But one stood out. It was a 1985 penny, brighter than most, but oddly soft around the rim. When he tilted it in the light, he noticed the edges of the letters in United States of America seemed slightly doubled. It wasn't wear, it looked like a shadow had been stamped into the coin. His pulse quickened that he set the coin aside and retrieved a magnifying glass. Upon closer inspection, the doubling was not limited to the lettering. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse had columns that appeared thicker than usual, with faint outlines beside them. Even the word 1 cent showed signs of duplication. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. He had found what experts later confirmed to be a double die reverse, a rare variation caused during the hubbing process, where the die used to strike the coin was imprinted with the design more than once in misaligned positions. Daniel's discovery ignited a wave of interest. Collectors and hobbyists began combing through their 1985 pennies with new eyes. Soon, reports started to surface across the country. A teenager in Iowa found a 1985 D penny with an off-center strike so dramatic that nearly one-third of the design was missing. The date was partially cut off, and Lincoln's bust had shifted toward the edge, leaving a crescent of blank copper. Experts authenticated the error, and the coin sold quietly through a private sale $4.14,000. Not long after, a man in Georgia brought a coin to a local shop that initially seemed damaged. But under proper lighting and magnification, it was clear the penny was missing part of its copper plating. The zinc core beneath had corroded slightly, revealing a pale patch of rough grayish metal along Lincoln's cheek and shoulder. Further analysis revealed it was a mint error, an incomplete plating issue stemming from improper processing of the zinc blanks before they were coated in copper. When confirmed and graded in near-mint condition, it fetched an astounding $27,000. Other varieties followed. One collector in Pennsylvania discovered a 1985 cent struck on a dime planchet. The coin was smaller in diameter and significantly thinner than a normal penny, with parts of the design cut off by the edges. The coin lacked a reeded edge, but the weight and measurements confirmed it was a 1-cent design mistakenly struck on a 10-cent blank. Only a few examples of this type had been found, and the rarity caused a frenzy when it went to auction. It sold for $38,500, surprising even the most seasoned bidders. Perhaps the most dramatic error came in 2018 when a collector in Nevada unearthed a 1985 penny with what appeared to be a full brockage. Caused by a previously struck coin becoming stuck between the die and a new blank, the result was an eerie mirrored image of Lincoln's bust pressed into the obverse, completely distorting the normal design. The word Liberty was barely legible, and Lincoln's profile was nearly obliterated. The reverse side looked relatively normal, which made the contrast all the more shocking. Graded and encapsulated by PCGS, the coin quickly became one of the most talked about modern cent errors. It sold later that year for $61,000 to a private collector. Die rotation errors also began appearing on the radar. A coin found in North Carolina exhibited a dramatic 90-degree misalignment between the obverse and reverse. When held upright with Lincoln's head facing forward, the reverse design was positioned sideways. The sharp rotation and excellent preservation made it a textbook example of a rotational die error, rare for 1985 cents, and rarer still in such pristine shape. This particular coin sold for $46,000, cementing its place as one of the most striking visual oddities of the decade. The deeper collectors dug, the more unexpected anomalies they found. Some pennies had strike-through errors, with foreign debris like cloth or metal shavings embedded into the surface. Others bore heavy die cracks, raised lines snaking through the coin's surface like veins, caused by fatigue in the dies used for striking. One particularly stunning example showed a massive die break across Lincoln's jawline, giving him the appearance of a deep scar. When it went up for sale in 2022, it brought in nearly $33,000, a stunning price for what had once seemed like a deformed piece of metal. What makes the 1985 penny especially fascinating is that, unlike many coins celebrated for their unique commemorative designs or low mintage numbers, it was mass-produced in staggering quantities. Over 10 billion pennies were struck that year between the Philadelphia and Denver mints. And yet, within those billions, a microscopic fraction bore the kind of errors that transformed them into objects of desire. The sheer volume of production made it easy for mistakes to slip through undetected. Quality control systems in place at the time were effective, but not perfect, and it was within those tiny imperfections that the treasure lay hidden. As technology advanced and coin grading became more precise, collectors revisited their older collections with new tools, microscopes, digital scales, and high-resolution imaging. The result was a renaissance of discovery, particularly with coins from the 1980s that had long been dismissed as too modern to hold value. Among them, the 1985 penny emerged as a quiet giant, an unassuming coin with a legacy that was just beginning to unfold. By 2024, over 3 dozen verified mint errors from the 1985 penny had been documented and authenticated by major grading services. From dramatic planchet anomalies to subtle double dies, each new find added to the growing legend. Coin shows began hosting showcases dedicated specifically to modern cent errors. Dealers reported surging interest from younger collectors eager to search through rolls of pennies, hoping to strike it lucky. And the value of known specimens continued to climb. What began as a routine production year for one of America's most common coins had evolved into a secret chapter of numismatic history, a chapter still being written. For every collector who finds one of these error coins, there is the thrill of uncovering a story no one else has seen. A story forged in metal, misaligned by chance, and preserved by fate. Today, authenticated 1985 US 1-cent penny errors command serious attention. Depending on the nature and severity of the error, whether struck on the wrong planchet, bearing a double die, or showing off-center brilliance, these coins now sell for anywhere between $50,000 and $110,000. And they serve as a powerful reminder that even in a world filled with billions of the same, something truly rare can still slip through, waiting to be discovered. In 1997, the world seemed to be accelerating. The internet was weaving its way into daily life, the economy was booming, and America stood on the cusp of a new millennium. Amidst the flurry of global change, the U.S. Mint continued its unchanging rhythm, quietly striking coins day after day, year after year. The Lincoln Cent, still bearing the familiar portrait introduced in 1909 and the Lincoln Memorial reverse added in 1959, continued its journey through registers, pockets, and coin jars. No one paid much attention to the 1997 1-cent piece at the time. Billions were made, most forgotten. But deep within that flood of copper-plated zinc, something remarkable began to surface: hidden errors, nearly invisible flaws that would eventually transform ordinary cents into extraordinary treasures. It wasn't until 2008 when Laura Patterson, a schoolteacher from Vermont and an amateur coin enthusiast, began going through her late grandfather's coin jars. He'd been a quiet collector, never chasing big-ticket items but always saving coins that looked just a bit unusual. Among dozens of rolls, she found a penny that looked off, not broken, not corroded, but just strange. It was a 1997 Lincoln Cent, and at first, it seemed perfectly normal. But under a simple jeweler's loupe, Laura noticed that the date and the word Liberty were not quite right. They had a fuzzy appearance, doubled, but not in the way smudging or damage would cause. The coin had what experts would later confirm as a Class 4 double die obverse, where the doubling appeared on the same side of the coin but was shifted and distorted due to misalignment during the die creation process. The subtlety of this error was its greatest strength. Most people would have missed it entirely. But to trained eyes, the coin was gold, figuratively and almost literally. Once authenticated and graded in near mint condition, it sold at a private auction for $$34,000. What made it especially valuable was how few other examples existed, and how clean and sharp the doubling appeared. Following Laura's discovery, whispers of 1997 penny errors spread like wildfire. Coin collectors, roll hunters, and hobbyists all began checking their stashes. Reports of strange anomalies slowly emerged. One of the first was from a man in Texas who submitted a penny with a broadstrike error, a coin that had been struck outside of the retaining collar, resulting in a slightly wider and flatter coin with no raised edge. The details on the coin were distorted, especially around the rim, but the date was fully visible. This error type is uncommon for the year, and in such good condition, it fetched nearly $18,000 at a national coin show, but perhaps the most shocking find came from a coin dealer in Wisconsin in 2015. He was examining a bulk lot of circulated coins when he found a 1997 penny struck on a foreign planchet. It was lighter, smaller, and silver-colored rather than copper. Weighing under 2.5 grams, it didn't match any standard U.S. denomination. Laboratory analysis revealed it had been struck on a leftover aluminum blank, likely intended for a test or foreign coinage run. The U.S. Mint occasionally struck coins for other nations, and it's believed that this penny was a result of planchet contamination from one such operation. Its rarity and mystery pushed its value sky high. The coin eventually sold to a private buyer for over $58,000. By 2019, collectors were reporting even more bizarre 1997 cent errors. One woman in Oregon uncovered a coin with a dramatic off-center strike. Roughly 40% of the coin's design was missing, the entire left side showing nothing but blank copper, while Lincoln's face peeked out from the edge like a ghost behind a curtain. The mint mark was visible, and the date was fully struck, key factors that added to the coin's collectability. Experts declared it one of the most visually dramatic 1997 penny errors ever seen. It went on to sell $4.41000. Another unusual case emerged when a young collector in New Jersey spotted a 1997 cent with a die cap error. This occurs when a struck coin becomes stuck to the hammer die and begins striking subsequent coins, creating a distorted cap of metal that wraps around the die and strikes increasingly misshapen impressions. The coin he found showed a deeply concave surface, with Lincoln's face stretched and melted across the design like soft wax. Despite the damage, the error was natural and authentic, a numismatic oddity that ended up selling $4.49. Rotated die errors also began to surface. A coin found in Illinois showed a nearly perfect 180-degree rotation between the obverse and reverse. When Lincoln's head was upright, the Lincoln Memorial on the back was completely upside down. Die rotation this severe was almost unheard of in modern cents, especially from the late 1990s. Its clean surfaces and bold luster helped it realize a sale price of $44,000. The intrigue didn't end there. In 2021, a collector in Florida discovered a 1997 penny with an embedded fiber, most likely from a brush or cloth, trapped in the coin's surface during the striking process. The foreign object left a deep groove through Lincoln's hair, almost like a streak of lightning frozen in copper. This strike-through error was clear, deep, and untouched. Once graded, the coin was sold through an online auction platform for over $36,000. But then came the most dramatic twist. At a major numismatic convention in early 2023, a sealed envelope was brought to the floor by a quiet man in his 60s. Inside was a 1997 penny with no mint mark, slightly thinner than standard, and with a glossy, golden sheen. Under bright lights and precise magnification, the coin displayed what no one expected, a full reverse double die, with the steps of the Lincoln Memorial clearly doubled from base to roof. Even the words, 1 cent and United States of America, showed doubling visible to the naked eye. Experts confirmed it was authentic, and more importantly, entirely unique. No other known 1997 cent showed doubling of this scale and clarity. After authentication and extensive study, the coin sold in a confidential transaction for an astounding $105,000. What makes the 1997 penny story so compelling is its paradox. Billions were minted. They passed through gas stations, vending machines, and school cafeterias, all without a second glance. And yet, among those billions were a few that defied expectations, coins struck with imperfection that would become masterpieces of the minting world. Not because they were flawless, but because they were not. With the right combination of timing, chance, and scrutiny, the 1997 1-cent piece transformed from a background coin into a collectible legend. Roll hunters now scrutinize every 1997 cent with heightened curiosity, hopeful eyes, and magnification tools in hand. Some still surface from forgotten jars, tucked away in attics or estate sales, often overlooked for years. Today, authenticated 1997 U.S. 1-cent penny errors have been known to command staggering values, ranging from $45,000 to as high as $105,000 depending on the type of error, condition, and overall rarity. They serve as proof that even the most common coin can, under the right conditions, become a treasure, one born not from perfection, but from the beauty of a mistake. In 2015, the hum of machines at the United States Mint was as steady and unyielding as ever. The Lincoln cent, having long held its place in American currency since 1909, continued to be produced in the billions. By now, the reverse side displayed the Union Shield, a redesign introduced in 2010 to represent the unity of the states. With each strike of the die, millions of these copper-plated zinc coins passed through inspection, packaged into rolls, and quietly entered circulation. To most people, a 2015 penny was simply the smallest denomination, often overlooked, dropped, or dismissed. But in the vast sea of sameness, a few slipped through the cracks of perfection and carried with them stories that would only be uncovered by eyes trained to spot the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. It was late winter in 2020 when Michael Halstead, a high school chemistry teacher in Idaho and a passionate coin roll hunter, opened a fresh $250 box of pennies from his local bank. Like many collectors, he wasn't expecting much, just the usual mix of worn coins, maybe a few wheat cents if he got lucky. He worked through the rolls methodically, eyes trained to spot anomalies. Then, buried near the end of the third roll, he paused. A 2015 penny caught the light strangely. He leaned in. The coin's surface was smooth, too smooth. The date and Lincoln's profile looked unusually shallow. At first, he assumed the coin was just worn. But something about the fields, those flat surfaces around the raised designs, was too clean. It lacked the usual small imperfections. Intrigued, he took out his microscope. And what he saw changed everything. Under magnification, it became clear the coin was not worn, but weakly struck. Details were incomplete, particularly on the reverse. The shield design was faded, missing horizontal lines, and the central vertical bars bled into each other. The coin had been struck through a thin layer of grease or debris, a strike-through error that muffled the die's imprint. It was a mint error, and the condition of the coin was near uncirculated. Once authenticated, this grease-filled die error sold at auction for $12,000. While not the most dramatic mistake, its subtlety and preservation made it rare. Stories like Michael's ignited a fresh wave of interest in modern penny errors, particularly those from recent years that had been largely overlooked. More collectors began to examine their 2015 cents with renewed intensity. And that's when the discovery started to build momentum. A young collector in Michigan found a 2015 cent that was drastically off-center. More than 40% of the design was missing. Lincoln's face was crammed into the lower corner, while the date and mint mark were cleanly visible along the blank field. The reverse was even more warped, with the shield squeezed into the lower half of the planchet. Such an off-center strike, especially one retaining the full date, is extremely desirable among collectors. It later sold in a private sale for $24,500. Another case came from Florida, where a coin dealer examining a bulk lot noticed a strange glint. Upon inspection, the coin in question was much smaller and lighter than a normal cent. It had no copper color at all, its silvery surface was unmistakable. Initial measurements confirmed the weight was significantly under 2.5 grams. Further metallurgical testing revealed it had been struck on a dime planchet. Somehow, a 10-cent blank had made its way into the penny presses and been stamped with Lincoln's image. Because the dime planchet was smaller than a cent, part of the design was cut off, an unmistakable sign of this rare mint error. The coin, in pristine condition, went on to sell for $38,000. The deeper collectors dug, the more they realized that 2015 pennies were hiding a range of errors. One collector in Arizona discovered a double die reverse, faint but definite. The shield's lines were doubled, and the words, 1 cent, showed ghost-like outlines beneath the main lettering. Doubling errors like this occur when the die is misaligned during the hubbing process. The rarity of double dies in post-2010 cents made this discovery especially valuable, and after authentication and grading, it was auctioned for $43,000. Perhaps one of the most dramatic discoveries came in 2022, when a numismatist from California submitted a 2015 cent that appeared completely blank on one side. The reverse displayed the Union shield as expected, but the obverse, where Lincoln's face should have been, was an empty field of copper. Not even a trace of a design could be seen. The coin had been struck with a missing obverse die. Errors like this are astonishingly rare, as most are caught during quality control. When it was authenticated as a genuine uniface strike, the bidding war it triggered shocked even veteran collectors. The final sale price reached $66,000. As the coin community became more attuned to 2015 cent errors, additional varieties came to light. One was a partial collar error, where the coin was struck with the collar slightly out of place. The result was a distinctive, railroad rim look, an uneven, flanged edge that made the coin appear misformed. Another featured a die clash, in which the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in place, transferring ghost-like outlines of the shield onto Lincoln's chest. Both coins, despite being from a modern mintage, fetched prices in excess of $30,000 each due to their clarity and rarity, but the twist came with a coin found in Tennessee. It appeared ordinary at first glance, but its weight was nearly 3.2 grams, significantly over the expected weight for a zinc-based cent. Further testing confirmed the presence of copper throughout. This coin had been struck on a leftover bronze planchet, the kind used before 1982. How it ended up in the 2015 press remains a mystery. Some speculated it was a rogue planchet from deep within the mint's machinery, possibly dislodged after decades. Whatever the explanation, the coin defied logic. It was an anomaly, a phantom from the past masquerading in modern dress. It sold at auction for an astonishing $70,000, making it the most valuable 2015 penny ever documented. The beauty of the 2015 cent lies in its dual identity. It is both ubiquitous and mysterious. With over 9 billion minted across Philadelphia and Denver, it was never meant to stand out. Yet, through a combination of mechanical failures, oversights, and sheer chance, it became a silent carrier of secrets. Errors that once went unnoticed were suddenly magnified under new technology, and the demand for high-grade modern coin errors skyrocketed. Collectors who had once dismissed newer pennies as worthless began to revisit their jars, boxes, and old pocket change with a sharper eye. Now, nearly a decade later, the 2015 Lincoln cent has earned a surprising reputation. It is not just a piece of modern currency, but a portal into the unpredictable world of minting anomalies. Each known error adds to the growing tapestry of its legacy. And for collectors, it represents the thrilling possibility that something remarkable can still be found in the most unexpected places. Verified and authenticated error coins from the 2015 US 1-cent penny have been known to sell for between $35,000 and $70,000 depending on the nature of the mistake, its condition, and rarity. In a sea of sameness, these flawed coins have risen above, proving once again that true value often lies in imperfection. In 2017, the United States Mint quietly continued its mission, producing coins that would circulate through hands across the nation. The familiar image of Abraham Lincoln adorned the front of the 1-cent coin, while the Union shield stood tall on the reverse, a symbol of national unity crafted to honor both history and endurance. The Lincoln cent, by this time, was more of a habit than a highlight in most people's lives. It was what people dropped in tip jars, ignored in couch cushions, and passed over for nickels and dimes. But hidden among the billions minted in that single year, a small number of pennies emerged not as everyday currency, but as mistakes, small, strange, and remarkably valuable mistakes that would one day catch the eyes of those willing to look a little closer. The first real sign that something was off with the 2017 penny came not from an experienced collector, but from a college student in North Carolina named Henry Morales. He was working part-time at a local coffee shop and, out of boredom more than anything, had started putting aside interesting coins from the register. One slow afternoon, while counting the till, he noticed a penny that looked almost like it was melting. Lincoln's face was stretched, his features barely recognizable. The reverse shield was equally distorted, and the rim was uneven. Henry didn't know what he had, but instinct told him to keep it. Later that week, he posted a photo of the coin to an online coin collector forum. The responses came quickly. What he had was a genuine die cap error. The coin had become stuck to the hammer die and continued striking new planchets, eventually molding into a distorted dome shape. Once authenticated and graded, the coin fetched an astonishing $31,000 at auction, a life-changing amount for a student who had simply decided to look twice. That discovery reignited interest in modern cent errors, particularly from the 2017 mintage. Collectors who had once overlooked newer coins began revisiting their collections, and it wasn't long before more anomalies were uncovered. A roll hunter in Nevada found a 2017 cent with a remarkable double die obverse. Under magnification, the doubling of Lincoln's I, the date, and the word liberty was striking and unmistakable. The doubling was clean, sharp, and unmistakably from the hubbing process, not damage. It was declared one of the strongest double die varieties of the modern Lincoln cent series. At a national auction later that year, it sold for $38,000, making headlines in numismatic circles. Another collector from Kansas unearthed a 2017 penny that had been struck on a dime planchet. The smaller silver-colored blank created a coin that was both bizarre and compelling. Part of Lincoln's face was missing, clipped by the undersized surface. The edge was smooth and round, clearly not tampered with. Once certified as genuine, it became a prized piece for error collectors and eventually changed hands. $4.42,000. Unusual off-center strikes also surfaced. One of the most famous examples came from a collector in Oregon. His 2017 cent was struck with a 50% off-center error. The entire right side of the coin was blank, while the left side held a partial portrait of Lincoln and just enough of the date to confirm the year. The mint mark was visible, adding to its legitimacy and value. This visually dramatic error brought in over $30,000 when it hit the private auction market, but the real twist came with what collectors now call the ghost shield error. This particular penny, found in a cash drawer at a convenience store in Georgia, looked perfectly normal from the front. Lincoln's portrait was clear, the details crisp. But on the reverse, the Union Shield design was barely there, faint, shallow, and eerily faded. At first glance, it looked like the coin had been worn down. But under close analysis, experts confirmed it had been struck through a layer of grease or debris on the die, which had obscured the details during minting. It wasn't damage, it was a genuine mint error. Its condition, combined with its rare and haunting appearance, made it irresistible to serious collectors. It ultimately sold $4.36,000. Other unusual cases included a 2017 penny with a dramatic clipped planchet, where a portion of the coin was literally missing due to a miscut blank. The crescent-shaped gap on the coin's edge gave it a unique, jagged appearance that drew instant attention. Because the clip didn't remove the date or the mint mark, and the coin remained in great condition, it was validated and sold for a strong $34,000. Even more rare was a discovery made in 2022, when a coin dealer in Colorado received a batch of customer coins and noticed one that weighed significantly more than expected. The standard 2017 penny, made of copper-plated zinc, should weigh around 2.5 grams. This one weighed over 3 grams. Upon metallurgical analysis, it was found to be struck on a pure copper planchet, something that hadn't been in standard circulation since before 1982. Whether this was due to a rogue blank or an error in planchet sorting, it was a spectacular anomaly. With its brilliant luster, minimal wear, and highly unusual composition, it became the centerpiece of a private collection for a staggering $55,000. The story of the 2017 penny is still unfolding. For years, it was dismissed as just another modern coin with nothing to offer the collector. But the deeper people looked, the more they discovered, not just mistakes, but masterpieces of unintended rarity. The coins were products of pressure, misalignment, debris, or misfeeds. And yet, those imperfections elevated them into something extraordinary. Unlike older coins whose values often rely on age and historical context, the value of the 2017 penny errors lies in their unpredictable nature. They are the outcome of mechanical hiccups and rare chance. They don't just represent currency, they represent the thrill of discovery, the joy of finding something rare in the most unlikely of places. Today, collectors are searching through their change and revisiting rolls with a new level of attention. The 2017 penny, once overlooked, now holds the potential for excitement, wonder, and even wealth. It serves as a reminder that even the most modern coins can hold secrets waiting to be uncovered. Authenticated 2017 US 1-cent penny error coins have now been known to command values ranging from $30,000 to as high as $55,000, depending on the type of error, the condition of the coin, and the rarity of the anomaly. And somewhere, perhaps in a forgotten drawer or a coin jar on the kitchen counter, another one may still be waiting to be found.